Back on the show today is Zack Kopplin. He's a science education activist working on a campaign for evidence-based science to be taught in science class and a reinvestment in science funding. Zack, great to have you back on. You've been doing some really, really great work. Let's talk a little bit about where's your focus been lately?
Hey, David, thanks. We're trying to expand from not just sort of teaching evolution, teaching climate science, fighting science denial, but also getting in there and really doing some positives for science. So fighting for science funding to be replaced after the sequester, fighting for a lot more science funding. And that's really where I'm looking to now, beyond just the grades.
Excellent. So let's talk about some recent individual decisions that have happened. Not to delve too much into it, there was a Ball State University ban on teaching intelligent design in science classes. The last time you were on the show, we talked about decisions made even at the parish level in Louisiana about what can and can't be taught. Broadly speaking, is the way to teach good science for individual universities or school districts to make these types of decisions, or is it a little risky to depend on that?
So Ball State is that a teacher was teaching what looked like intelligent design as a science course, and it was a public university. And an investigation got launched, and while we don't know exactly what the results for the course are yet, it does look like the right decision was made by the university, where the president came out and said that, and we firmly understand and agree that intelligent design is not science and should not be taught as science. And so if it's being taught as science, they're fixing that. And so we're very happy with the result from that, as far as we can tell.
Excellent.
So that's the decision.
So then I guess to kind of the part two of the question is, what's the best way to ensure that science is actually science when it's being taught in a science class? Does it come down to, can we really rely on individual educational institutions or organizations to make these calls? And if not, what other choices exist?
I don't see, that's the thing. You nailed it with the second part. I don't think other choices exist. And so, I mean, the only way to educate students is in the classrooms. We're not like, I mean, you learn some on your own, but if with our system, you go to school, you learn in school, and you learn from the teacher. Is make sure everyone's being taught what real science, and so that's a problem in America because 60% of science teachers don't teach evolution the way it's supposed to be taught, and that's not even counting the ones who teach creationism, which makes the number a lot higher. I think it's 13% more who teach creationism on top of, and so we haven't really gotten to the point we need when it comes to making sure these institutions, local schools, teach evolution. And I do want to separate high school and university, because when you get to university, the problem happens a lot less when you're actually in college. The bigger schools of evolution and biology, and when a student gets to college after that, they won't be prepared for science classes and will likely either drop them or struggle in them, and we'll be behind for where we need in the future.
No question about it. The other thing also is how much power, if any, do individual parents have on either side of this? In other words, when these controversies seem to start at individual schools or universities or whatever the case may be, certainly there are parents who want, for example, intelligent design, creationism taught in science classes, and there are parents who don't. Does it matter at all what individual parents think or want about this, or do these seem to be issues that are really only addressed at a higher level?
It matters incredibly what individual parents think about all of this. And so you see, I gave the 60% of science teachers aren't teaching evolution stat, and part of that comes from the fact that many of these teachers are intimidated by parents who might complain to the principal in the science, or parents might come directly to their class, or the students might fight them. So there's a lot of pressure from individuals on the side against where I'm going, where the parents will intimidate the teachers. On the other hand, if a teacher is teaching creationism, and you're speaking to all the parents out there who might have a student in one of these schools from a public school and says, "Mom, they taught me the Earth is 6,000 years old," or "Mom, they taught me that evolution doesn't happen," or "creationism is real," or whatever the teacher might have taught. They come home and say that. you can immediately respond. You can go to the principal. Or you could call the ACLU and say my child was taught creationism at a pool power at that point to stop that because the Constitution is on your side, the science is on your side, and your son or your kid should not have been taught that in schools.
So in fact, if parents do indeed have such influence over this, really what we need is to be educating parents, right? And maybe even educating them before they're parents. Because if you go into parenting, if you go into putting your kid into school already being aware of what is and isn't science, wouldn't we be well served by just a broad kind of education campaign on issues of science?
Yes, and it's not just parents, it's students who need to be educated because the first barrier to really challenging creationism is a student knowing that their rights are being violated. And many students don't know, say that when you're taught creationism that that's wrong and that they shouldn't be taught that. And so they might not know that. Even if they know that, they might not disagree. They might appreciate learning it, which is another issue. If you don't understand the science, then when your teacher tells you the Earth is 6,000 years old, who are you to disagree and say that's a bad thing if you don't know it? And then if we get over those two barriers, you might not be brave enough to fight this kind of thing, knowing the social pressure, knowing the reactions from other parents, other students towards you. And if we get over those, then we get the one out, which is what do you do? Because it's not an easy thing to figure out how you take on these issues. So you get taught creationism. How do you protest? Do you go to your principal? What if your principal says, well, stop complaining, that they're allowed to do that? But then it's hard to know, especially as a kid, how to fight this. And so my next step is how do you answer this? If you get taught creationism, go call the ACLU, call Americans United for Separation of Church and State, call the National Center for Science Education, or send me an email. My email's online on my website, and we will all get started on fighting that and helping you fight that. And that's really you get in contact with the people who have been taking on these issues, and to really bring it to court. And
Absolutely.
That's the answer. Or go protest it at your school board publicly. Go send email to your Department of Education about this. That's another way to do this. And you have to go, because you can't just go directly to the teacher if they're teaching creationism.
Totally, yeah. The power dynamics certainly make this very, very complicated, even for students, like you mentioned, who might be aware of it. We've been speaking with Zack Kopplin. He's a science education activist. He's working on a campaign for evidence-based science to be taught in science class. Zack, great as always to talk to you, and we'll definitely check in with you again.
Thanks so much for having me on. It was great to be on.